Forget it, I'll marry him. James Lu, Academician Lu, froze mid-argument with the censors. He turned his head, disbelief written all over his face. How can the second princess marry? What did you just say? I said if the second princess Olivia Tao can't marry him, then I will. The entire court fell silent. James Lu frowned. Eldest princess. I've admired Ethan Fang for a long time. Even if he's unconscious now, so what? Bored, I turned and walked out of the hall. But you said you'd marry no one but me. In the end, he couldn't hold it in. His face was a mess, all composure gone. With my back to him, I paused, then turned and let out a mocking laugh. That was a long time ago. Sister, wait for me, sister. Liv caught up, panting. I stopped and turned to look at her. From that short run, a sheen of lychee-colored moisture shimmered in her clear eyes. She looked pitiful and sweet. Sister, are you really going to marry brother Ethan? He's still lying in bed. He lives on medicine every day. Whether he'll ever wake up, no one knows. I was half a head taller than her, hardly the sort of height that made people want to pity me. I looked down at her. Yes. I really don't understand why father insists on giving him a princess. Brother Ethan has devoted himself to the country. He deserves respect. But if you marry him, then you'll be a widow. The Fang family has always been loyal. Ethan Fang is 25. He has no wife and no concubines. He was wounded for the emperor. I cut her off. Winning over loyal ministers has always been the way. Liv, don't bring this up again. But isn't James Lu the only one in your heart? Since when have you liked Ethan Fang for so long? She looked blankly confused. You're not me. How would you know? Then have you met before? She pressed. I shook my head. Right, sister. I'm sorry. At the Lantern Festival, we both fell into the water. I didn't expect James would come save me. The past doesn't matter. James really likes you. Then I'll go to father right now and ask him to marry me to James. Ah, that would of course be. She stammered. I curled my lips, teasing. Then the one who marries Ethan Fang can only be you. Would you sacrifice a little for your sister's happiness? Of course I would. But sister, didn't you like brother Ethan? She muttered. I stared at her for a long moment, then smiled without warmth. Yes. In the distance, I saw James Lu standing there. He must have heard us. So I raised my voice to Olivia Tao. At the Lantern Festival, you gave James a sachet. He accepted it. I thought you two were already together. So why is it that today, one of you says the one James loves is me, and the other asks whether I love James but can't have him? James's cheek twitched. His face tightened into something complicated. I wish you two a lifetime together, I said sincerely. My name is Charlotte Tao, the deposed empress's daughter. Olivia Tao was born to the current empress, and she is one of only 2 princesses. The current empress and my mother were full sisters. When my mother was deposed, she was reduced to a low-ranking consort. Father despised me after my mother's affair with a guard was exposed. When she was dragged down from the bed, she smashed her head against a pillar and died on the spot. That crash shattered father's favor. It toppled the wealth and glory I could already see stretching to the end of my life. I grew up draped in gold and silver, gaudy for an eldest princess. I did whatever I wanted. People hated me. On the night my mother killed herself, I stormed into the palace where her body lay and pointed at her, cursing for 2 hours. I blamed her for being shameless and ruining my name. I blamed her for disgracing herself and dragging me down with her. Father had wanted her corpse thrown into the wilderness. But after hearing my curses, he coldly ordered her buried in the imperial mausoleum. His affection for me was like water thrown out. It dried fast under the blazing sun. And I, an ungrateful eldest princess greedy for wealth, became a joke to everyone. The current empress, my aunt, pitied me. Now and then she sent me things. I was grateful. I spoke for her at every turn. Seeing how peacefully we got along, the court tacitly accepted father's intent to make her empress. Ethan Fang was a fierce general of this dynasty. More than once he drove back the barbarians' attacks. He came from a military family. His whole clan died for the country and died with honor. Some days ago, he was ambushed on the battlefield. A sword pierced his chest. He survived, but he still hadn't woken. Father remembered his merits and pitied his loneliness. Also, the barbarians had heard Ethan Fang was gravely wounded and unconscious. They gathered troops and meant to invade again, determined to seize the borderland's 15 prefectures. To calm the people, father decided to marry the most favored second princess, Olivia Tao, to Ethan Fang. Academician James Lu opposed it fiercely. I watched coldly as that handsome, charming top scholar argued alone against the whole court, all for my younger sister. Did he ever think, if Olivia Tao didn't marry, who would? A mind as sharp as his, how could he not have thought of it? So I might as well play the good person and grant them their wish. I flicked my sleeve and stepped out of the crowd. Forget it. I'll marry him. Once the words were out, it was settled. There was no taking it back. Everyone was stunned. James Lu whipped around to look at me, eyes full of shock and doubt. These past few days, I stayed in my palace and prepared for the wedding. For once, father came to see me. No regrets? He asked. If I say I only did it to spite Academician Lu, and now I regret it, will you call off the marriage for me? Father said, I can't take back an imperial decree. Since you're marrying Ethan Fang, take good care of him. If he never wakes up, that's your fate. You must take responsibility for your impulse. But I'm a princess. I'm your daughter. I have the right to make mistakes. I shouted, frantic. He glared at me with hatred. No. You're a bastard. I only regret marrying a slut like your mother. I think so too. She deserved it. I nodded in agreement. His hawk-like eyes had long since turned cloudy. He stared at me as if trying to tell whether I meant it. After a long while, his mood seemed to lift, and his tone softened. Any wish before you marry? Say it. Consider it the last of our father-daughter bond. Yes, I smiled brightly. I want my mother's dowry, and a lot of money. Father stormed out, sleeves flying. I shouted after him, you can't take back your word. On the day I married, the bridal procession stretched for miles, a spectacle never seen before. I opened one chest and saw what was inside. Only then did my expression ease into a smile. The princess really does love money. Aren't you afraid people will laugh and say you disgraced the royal family? A voice, cold as ice. It was James Lu. He wore a crimson robe. He was responsible for escorting the bride. As long as I have money, I'm fine. Why do you care? You're impossible. I rolled my eyes and said pointedly, we're both in red today. If someone didn't know better, they'd think you were marrying me. How could I ever marry a princess? He sneered. Fine. I get it. Olivia is the only one in your heart. I pressed a hand to his arm and leaned in. What are you doing? His face flared red as he flung my hand away. He looked like I'd dirtied him. Seeing him avoid me like poison, my heart sank. I let go of the urge to tease him. The auspicious hour has come. Lord Qin, aren't you going to help me into the sedan? My voice went cold. Thinking he had misunderstood me, he lowered his voice to apologize. Then he stepped back and let the palace attendants hurry over and bend their backs. I used the human stool and climbed into the carriage. Before the curtain fell and blocked the daylight, I stole a glance at him. Silently, I mouthed thank you. The Fang residence had only one master, Ethan Fang. It was bleak and quiet. Since he still hadn't woken, I performed the wedding rites with a rooster and was sent into the bridal chamber. Under the veil, I could faintly make out voices. A young princess, and already a widow. If General Fang doesn't wake, the frontier won't know peace. I heard the princess is cold-blooded and money-grubbing. And she chased Academician Lu every day. Shameless. I'd heard words like these every day for the first 18 years of my life. I was numb to them. Because of my status, no one came to make trouble in the bridal chamber. After the sun set, I took off my veil myself. I ate 2 plates of pastries and drank a whole pot of tea. Only after I'd eaten my fill did I remember my husband, Ethan Fang, lying on the bed. I sat beside him and studied him with interest. Slanted brows, dark skin, thin lips pressed tight. His brow was knotted. Even unconscious, he looked uneasy. In the summer night heat, sweat like beans rolled down his forehead. I took out a handkerchief, about to wipe it away. No. To my surprise, he jerked his head and woke up. Ethan Fang's eyes were dazed, as if he didn't know what day it was. I would be spending the rest of my life with him. I wanted us to get along, so I lifted the handkerchief to wipe his sweat. He clamped down on my wrist with crushing force. It felt like he might snap it. General Fang, it's our wedding night. That isn't very appropriate, I said, giving the wrist he held a small shake. The confusion in his eyes cleared in an instant. I'm married? Olivia, wrong, I smiled. Charlotte Tao? Why is it you? Yes, why isn't it my sister? Disappointed. I shrugged. Ethan Fang had iron in his bones, a real man. The night he realized he hadn't married the princess he'd longed for, he erupted with fierce determination, an almost frantic will to recover. That same night, he sat up. On the second day, he could get out of bed with a cane. On the fifth day, he was striding around as if nothing had happened. Love makes people blind. Before the wedding, he had never said in public that he wanted Olivia. So when news spread that he'd awakened, everyone assumed it was my doing. The eldest princess arrived, and the general woke, like something out of a storybook. Ethan Fang's awakening was a pillar that steadied the sea. When the news reached the frontier, the barbarians' restlessness clearly subsided. Overnight, we became the most sought-after couple. The stone lions at the Fang Gate were polished bright again. In 5 days, the threshold was replaced 3 times. Father used that miles-long bridal procession, the most extravagant display ever, to satisfy my vanity and buy out the last of our father-daughter bond. So on the day I was to return to the palace, he sent an imperial eunuch with an edict. Only Ethan Fang was to enter the palace. The princess should stay and learn the household affairs, learn to be the mistress of the house. No need to enter the palace unless necessary. Those were the last words on the bright yellow silk. The vivid red seal stung my eyes. I didn't know why, but that red looked like burning spider lilies. In an instant, it seemed to sear itself into my eyes. 18 years of raising the deposed empress's daughter? Was that mercy enough? Fine, fine. I took a small bamboo and wood box from a mother-of-pearl chest by the wall. I tossed the yellow silk inside and shut the lid. That afternoon, Ethan Fang returned from the palace, beaming. When he saw me, the curve of his smile didn't fade. I found it strange. Since that night he hadn't spoken to me, much less smiled. Sister. A bright, innocent face popped out behind him. So that was why beauty at his side. Today in the palace, I didn't see you. I only saw my brother-in-law. I was afraid you'd be lonely, so I came with him. Sister, you won't blame me, will you? You worry too much. If you want to come, just come. How could I blame you? Right, Ethan? I looked at Ethan Fang. His face went pale. That one brother-in-law made it painfully clear. After seeing Olivia, his joy lasted only a heartbeat before he remembered they would never be possible in this life. But he didn't dare lash out at Olivia. She was a delicate flower. He feared that even raising his voice would break her. His face twitched. He tried to press his lips tight, then forced himself to let it go. He lowered his voice to me. Eldest princess, call me General Fang. There's nothing close between us. He didn't dare look at Olivia. Face rigid, he strode away. He scolded me in the gentlest tone. The attitude was both overbearing and careful. It was so ridiculous I laughed out loud. Sister, what are you laughing at? Liv asked, puzzled. I wiped the tears at the corner of my eyes and didn't answer. After Liv left, I returned to my room at my leisure. As expected, Ethan Fang was waiting there. The moment I entered, I saw him crush a teacup into powder with his bare hand. Unhurried, I closed the door and sat across from him. He sprang up and strode toward me. His phoenix eyes held a killing glare. The eldest princess chased Academician Lu relentlessly. The whole world knows it. So why did you suddenly change and marry me? Olivia didn't want to marry, so I did. It's that simple. I skimmed the foam from my tea with the lid and spoke evenly. I don't believe you. What don't you believe? That Olivia wouldn't marry an Ethan Fang who might live or die? Or that I truly admired you for a long time, a lie I made up on the spot. Without warning, I drove a foot into the back of his knee. He cried out and went down. I stood and looked down at him, cold. I don't like being looked down on. Don't flatter yourself. You're not that charming. I don't need to lie to you, General Fang. I emphasized every word, paying him back for calling me sister to please Olivia and humiliate me. Olivia once said she had me in her heart. How could she not want to? He murmured. Believe whatever you want. James Lu would argue against the whole court for Olivia. I would marry you for James Lu. I yanked Ethan Fang up by the sleeve. I was taller than most women. Face to face, we were the same height. His expression was stormy, with a trace of reluctant admiration. I'd heard the eldest princess loved Academician Lu. I didn't expect you could go this far. We're the same kind of miserable, I said. He lifted the teapot as if it were wine and gulped it down. Tea splashed over his handsome face like bitter resignation. You want to marry Olivia? I asked. He snapped his gaze to me, then lowered it again. The Emperor won't agree. Besides, he hates you. Agree to 3 conditions. When the time comes, I'll go to Father and plead. I'll ask to shave my head and become a nun to pray blessings for day. I was already married. How could I still deserve James? Maybe a lamp before the Buddha would be my last home. You? He looked as if he'd seen a ghost. He hesitated, but when his fingers touched the jade pendant at his waist, his expression slowly hardened. First, 100,000 taels of gold. He looked as if he'd expected it. Disdain flickered in his eyes. So the princess's love of money and her love for Academician Lu are both real. Of course, if there's no love, then I'll take money. I can't lose both. If I did, I'd truly have nothing. I smiled. Father rewarded you 10,000 taels. I know the Fang residence is poor, but if you sell some land, perhaps it will be enough. I have land? He asked, startled. Your grandmother loved Buddhist offerings, so the late emperor granted many temple lands. If you can find buyers, won't 100,000 come quickly? Fine. He clenched his teeth and agreed. As for the other 2, I'll tell you when I think of them. General, you can go, and be more polite to me from now on. Yes, princess. He actually clasped his fists and bowed deeply. Then he said, Princess, I agree to your second condition. I gave him a half smile. So you really can't wait to send me off to a temple? He answered calmly. You let it slip. I just took the opening. He nearly made me laugh with anger. I waved a hand. Fine, next time I'll watch my tongue. He'd meant to provoke me. He hadn't expected me to accept it so cleanly, and he looked surprised. Aren't you going to raise the money? I asked. As he was leaving, I called out, Wait. If you decide later you won't honor the promise and insist on not divorcing me, then what? He didn't reply, but in his eyes, plainly and openly, there was nothing but contempt. Ethan Fang set about raising money, and the residence grew emptier by the day. The steward brought a group of people, saying he wanted to buy servants and asked me to choose. I rolled up the ledger and went into the courtyard. More than 30 men and women stood there, all with their heads lowered. I walked around once and stopped in front of a man in a gray short jacket. Lift your head, let me see you. He looked up. I jumped back in shock. He was solid with muscle, clearly trained. He would make a fine guard, but 2 vicious scars ran from the corner of his eye across the bridge of his nose. He looked terrifying. How ugly. I lifted the ledger to cover my eyes and turned my head away. At my words, he lowered his head again without a sound. The steward wiped sweat and hurried over. Princess, he's ugly, but he's the best fighter in this group. Fine, I said reluctantly. You then. You'll stay close and protect me. You won't even need to fight. You'll scare people just by standing there. From now on, your name is Ugly Servant. Anger flashed in his eyes. Then he shrank back and went silent. Night. Ethan Fang refused to live with me. I slept in the main room. He stayed in a side room. Ugly Servant, come here. He came. Closer. He didn't move. He only looked at me quietly. I studied him for a long time, then said, At the Lantern Festival, when I fell into the water, were you the one who saved me? Yes. Thank you. It was my duty. He was like still water in a deep well, as if nothing could shake him. A sudden cruel impulse rose in me. If it was your duty, then come here. Take off my shoes. Without a word, he walked to the bed and knelt. He lifted my right foot and set it on his knee. Gently, he removed my boot. He smelled clean, like soap pods. From years of training, heat rose off him. For a moment, it pulled me back to that night. Someone, the princess, fell in. Gurgle, gurgle. James Lu jumped in without hesitation, then swam in the opposite direction. He held Olivia like something fragile. And me? I closed my eyes and sank. I wouldn't accept it. I wouldn't accept it. I wouldn't. All my chasing, all I gave, was nothing but decoration for their love. When needed, they brought it out to show off, to shake loose another round of laughter. I wanted. A figure came close. An arm wrapped around me and hauled me up to the surface. As I coughed up water in a mess, he slipped away. That soap pod scent brushed past and vanished, like a dream that couldn't be real. Now looking at his face, I thought it wasn't so ugly after all. Liv begged Father Emperor for days, and finally won me a chance to enter the palace. I went to see my aunt, the Empress, in her residence and chatted with her for a while. She had always been frail, bedridden for most of the year. Her voice was soft and gentle, edged with a faint wheeze, yet she still forced herself to comfort me. The Emperor just can't see it clearly yet. I looked around, but I didn't see that bright yellow figure. I forced a smile and agreed. Will's health has improved a great deal lately, my aunt said with relief. He can already accompany the Emperor and help handle state affairs. Will was my aunt's son. He was the same age as I was. I was the eldest princess, and he was the eldest prince. My eyes lit up. That's wonderful. I felt guilty toward him for more than 10 years. If anything happened to him, I'd rather die. My mother had only me, a daughter, and could never bear a son. Her temper grew stranger by the year. Back then, my aunt was only a low-ranking palace woman. Gentle by nature, she often came to my mother's quarters to talk. Once, by accident, she saw the bruises on my arm, blue and purple. She was silent for a long time. In the end, she only brought ointment in secret and applied it for me. She even urged me not to hate my mother. But I was little then. My skin was thin, and I was terribly afraid of pain. How could I not hate her? My mother was obsessed with having a son. I heard her order someone to send Will some medicine to strengthen his body. After he took it, his health weakened day by day, and no one knew the truth except me. Until one day, Will suddenly collapsed. The next day, my mother was caught having an affair with a guard. She was exposed on the spot. She smashed her head against a pillar and died. After leaving my aunt, Liv accompanied me on a stroll through the palace. As we chatted, I asked, "How has Academician Lu been lately? Has he asked you out anywhere?" Liv's cheeks turned pink, and she smiled. "Sister, you know him. He loves poetry more than anything. We only exchange poems. We haven't met recently." I only had a rough grasp of literature. Hearing that, I felt awkward. Poetry is good. Poetry is elegant. Yes. Sister, haven't you thought about writing poems? You'd definitely write well. I twitched the corner of my mouth. I wrote some a few years ago. They were too embarrassing to show anyone. I threw them away as soon as I finished. Speaking of it, your fate with Academician Lu began with a poem on a red leaf, didn't it? Yes. That day I carved my poem onto a red leaf and tossed it into the palace waterway. I never thought James Lu would pick it up. Ah, James Lu! James Lu stepped forward and bowed. His smiling gaze never left Liv. Ethan Fang was there too, stealing glances at Liv. Everyone loved Liv. That was true. I didn't want to stay any longer. I was afraid I'd make a fool of myself. I left them to talk and walked away alone. But as I turned, my sleeve snagged on a branch. Before I could react, the world spun. "Princess! Watch out!" Ugh! Someone caught me. It was Ugly Slave. I shoved him away, disgusted, and brushed at my sleeve. He fell silent and retreated to the side. My face darkened. "I'm not feeling well. I'm going back." A husband with an icy face, a general who would soften only for one person. A beloved with dazzling talent, a refined academician whose eyes held only one person. Day's two brightest young men, one civil, one military, both fell at Olivia Tao's feet. Tell me, what woman wouldn't be jealous? Especially someone like me, plain, ordinary, and vulgar to the bone. I was jealous enough to die. Thinking of Liv, she'd been clever since childhood with a clear, delicate beauty. I took after the late empress. Narrow phoenix eyes, deep red lips, tall besides. One look and you knew I was trouble. And it was true. I wore nothing but silk and brocade. I drank nothing but the finest dew-like wine. The palace servants gossiped in secret that I didn't have the fate of a phoenix, but had the sickness of one. Liv took care of me in every way, attentive to the smallest detail. One day the whole palace went to Great Awakening Temple to worship. We walked along the mountainside. I struggled with each step. Sweat fell drop by drop. The early summer sun blazed. Liv suddenly tugged lightly at my sleeve and whispered, "Sister, someone is watching you." I followed her gaze and looked back. James Lu lifted one corner of his mouth at me. Just then a cool breeze swept away the heat. It stirred his ink-dark hair. Beneath the tousled strands, his bright eyes held a gentle smile. Such a simple smile, pure, without a trace of impurity. For someone like me, living in the palace at others' mercy, it was salvation. I returned to my residence in a foul mood and told the servants to buy my favorite pastries from Tianqiang Pavilion. After a while, a servant reported, "Your Highness, Tianqiang Pavilion says they're sold out today." Just as I was about to lose my temper, Ugly Slave walked in. Without a word, he offered an oil paper packet. I raised an eyebrow. "This is Tiantian crisps?" Yes, I made them. I didn't even look at the pastries. Why did you make them? Anger harms your health. You haven't had even a sip of water today. Yes, Father Emperor hadn't kept me for a meal. I'd left early too. I was full of anger. I'm asking why you made them for me. This ugly slave, did he have feelings for me? After studying him for a long time, I admitted unwillingly that in 18 years he was the only one who could be said to treat me even a little well. I pinched up one pastry and let the salty, crisp taste bloom in my mouth. Something shifted in my heart. I'm going to nap in the pavilion. Stand guard. Yes? The wind that early summer afternoon was perfect. I changed into a light pink and blue dress, made from the best cloth Junman had produced this year. I lay on the couch and watched as the servants slowly lowered the bamboo blinds on all four sides. The light was blocked bit by bit. Only a sliver seeped through. Faint, wavering shadows. This moment was just like that moment. Sister, is Academician Lu looking at you? I turned my head sharply and met his handsome face. Before my awareness blurred, I seemed to hear myself laugh softly. Back then. When I woke, it was nearly dusk. To my surprise, Ethan Fang was standing below the steps, as if he had been waiting a long time. Princess! He held back his anger, but it still showed. Are you playing with me? I sat up and adjusted my clothes. Unhurried, I said, General, what do you mean? The land granted by the late emperor is all royal land. Anyone who sells it privately gets 200 lashes and prison. Your first condition is impossible for me to meet. His eyes burned with fury. Yes, I said, admitting it outright. I was playing with you. You. He was so angry he even forgot proper forms of address. But General, weren't you also toying with me on the second condition? But the order of it. Princess, you tricked me first. I didn't lie to you. I walked up to him and met his gaze head-on. Meaningfully, I said, the timing just isn't right yet. When he pressed for answers, I refused to say another word. Princess, is this demand because you won't stop pursuing me? His tone shifted. Coldly, he said, I should remind the eldest princess. There's only one person in my heart. Enough, I know. I cut in. When you were surrounded by assassins at Great Awakening Temple, you were badly wounded. Liv cared for you so carefully that you swore you'd marry no one else. Fine. No need to repeat it. You'll get what you want. Is that good enough? Anger flared in me. You. How do you know that? That's none of your business. And besides, an idea struck me. I reached out and dragged over the man who had been silent all along. Without you, I can still live just fine. This is my kept man, Ugly Slave. Ethan Fang looked at Ugly Slave's face, then at mine. With a sneer, he said, Princess, you really do have unusual tastes. That's not your concern, General. From here on, it's between me and Ugly Slave. Right, Ugly Slave? The answer I expected never came. Ugly Slave? My face stiffened, my tone sharpened, urging him. But his gaze was fixed on the woman who had just approached. I looked over. It was Liv. Reporting to your highness, he said hoarsely. I refuse. His voice was like a heavy hammer, striking my heart. I couldn't believe it. I clutched my chest and stumbled back several steps. Then I dropped straight to the ground, all dignity gone. Ugly Slave moved anxiously to help me up. I flung his hand away. Get lost. Good, very good. I scrambled up on my own. I reached out, yanked the whip from Ethan Fang's waist and was about to lash him. But Liv suddenly ran over and stood in front of Ugly Slave. I stopped, barely forcing myself to. Sister, don't be angry. This guard doesn't know what's good for him. Just give him to me. So saving me, caring for me, enduring my temper, none of it meant he loved me. Ugly Slave's eyes followed Liv. Those emotionless eyes were filled with stubborn devotion, so no one would ever like me, a bastard. My gaze slowly swept over Ethan Fang, stunned, over Olivia Tao smiling flawlessly, and over that ugly guard I had never truly looked at. Fine. With difficulty, I said, if you like him, then take him. Why are you following me? I turned back to Ethan Fang. He shook his head, as if he wanted to speak but couldn't. What's that look? Pitying me? How rare. I grabbed a jar of wine and tore off the seal. I've seen that expression plenty of times. You're like the rest, you mock me behind my back. I don't, he said urgently. Then drink. I thrust the jar at him. He took it by reflex, hesitation on his face. You look down on me. I know it. In a rush, he gulped it down in huge mouthfuls, then choked and coughed again and again. I burst out laughing. Dusk closed in. Lights came on one by one across the courtyards. We sat on the rooftop, 3 rounds of wine already gone. Do you know? Back then my mother did this. Bang! An empty jar rolled off the roof, clattering as it went. Just like that, I said. And she died. I didn't realize I was crying. Ethan Fang was already a little drunk, a faint flush on his cheeks. He kept silent. I respect the Fang family's loyalty and sacrifice. So when I heard you'd fallen unconscious, I thought, if Liv won't marry you, then I will. She has her happiness. Who would want to be a widow in the next life? Marrying you wouldn't earn me anything, but it wouldn't be a loss either. Princess, he muttered, you really are always thinking about money. If there's no love, then I'll scheme for wealth. What's with that look? I eyed him warily. Pity often turns into love. Don't fall for me. He looked at me quietly, as if he'd never known me before, yet he didn't throw conceited back in my face. After a long moment, his voice drifted, light as air, scattered by the wind. After the hangover, news swept through the capital city. After a string of defeats, Day's old enemy had finally decided to sue for peace. The envoys they sent arrived in the capital city today, bringing cattle and sheep, gold and silver. Father Emperor was delighted and declared there would be 3 days of banquets in the palace. With my aunt's efforts, I was finally allowed into the palace and could stay there until the banquets ended. That night, the great hall blazed with lights. Liv and I sat together. Across from us sat the only prince, Olivia Tao. His face was pale, like someone who had lived on medicine for years. I knew my mother had poisoned him. The palace treated the matter as a taboo. Still, Will was fairly kind to me. I nodded at him. He saw the wine set before Liv, turned, and gave the servants a quiet order. Soon, Liv's wine was replaced with something warm. She took a small sip and gave Will a trusting smile. Will doted on Liv. Everyone knew it. It grew late. The singing and dancing had gone through several rounds. An envoy stood and flattered Father Emperor until he laughed heartily. Then the envoy said, I have come today with one more request from the Khan. May I ask the Emperor? Father Emperor waved grandly. Speak. If I can do it, I'll grant it. The envoy clasped his hands. The Khan has long admired the culture of the Central Plains and wishes to take in marriage one of the Emperor's treasures. Father Emperor had drunk too much. His mind was hazy. What treasure? But everyone else understood. The current Emperor had only 2 princesses. The eldest princess was already married, so I looked at Liv. Her little face had gone white. The air froze. James Lu rose abruptly. Ethan Fang stood right after him. Will clenched his chopsticks so tightly his knuckles went white. Father Emperor belched. In the great hall it sounded thunderous. He sobered up. His expression changed. Vaguely he said, We'll discuss it later. I'm tired. All of you leave. Across the distant ranks of officials, I saw James Lu's suspicious gaze drift slowly onto me. Liv went a whole day without eating. I went to persuade her, but it did no good. In the end, I could only leave, helpless. At the entrance, I ran into James Lu, there to see Liv. I nodded to him and was about to pass by. He grabbed me and asked, You knew long ago? Knew what? I shot back. The political marriage. He stared into my eyes as if he meant to see straight through me. Lord James is joking. How could I know such things? I'm only an unloved princess. The suspicion in his eyes eased a little. Sorry to trouble you, princess. But I refused to let him off so easily. James Lu. I ground my hatred to dust and let it leak from my lips, thread by thread, turning into poison meant to wound. He stopped and turned back. There was no warmth on his face. You said you liked Chengmi inkstones, so I spent a fortune to obtain one. You liked paintings from Mount Wu. The artist had a strange temper, so I wore him down for 3 months and got the piece you couldn't put down. You like Liv, so I married in her place. James Lu, how have I wronged you? And when you see me, all you do is ask me something so absurd. Do I have to cut out my heart and hold it up, dripping blood, before you'll believe me? Fine. I yanked out my hairpin and pressed it to my right breast. Charlotte Tao, are you insane? I am insane, but you fell in love with Liv because of a single poem. What does that make you? A fool. He seized my hand, hard my fingers and the cold silver pin. That tiny glint of light on the pin reflected in his dark eyes. It was the gaze of someone utterly heartless. A snow mountain on the verge of collapse, curtains snapping around a small tower on the eve of a storm. like the sweep of long, delicate lashes. Courtyards within courtyards, how deep were they? The crown prince will be the future emperor. My life's ambition is to become Grand Chancellor, second only to one, above all others. Liv is his beloved sister, you are not. I'll say this once, Charlotte Tao, you understand, stop pretending. A born schemer, I put away that desperate look and let out a cold laugh. A dark-minded academician was not as easy to fool as a simple soldier like Ethan Fang. Then what about Liv? I asked. Was that all an act too? The surprise at my sudden change vanished from his face at once. He gave a soft laugh. I thought you understood. After 18 years in the inner palace, you still have a trace of innocence, whether sincerity matters or not. It isn't worth a penny. Yes, I said, laughing with him. If I also had a younger brother who cherished me like a jewel, would you turn around and love me instead? When that happened, would my sincerity become valuable? Selling at the right price. Princess, if you love money, how could you not understand that? Turning sincerity into a weapon, stepping on it to reach his goals. That was what James Lu believed in. And he truly did it. He made Liv adore him, utterly bewitched, and made Will believe he had gained an ally who could sway the civil officials with a single word. I didn't want to do it. I didn't dare. So I hesitated, forever half sober and still entangled. So I split one heart into pieces. On the surface, I loved that academician, but I also meant to draw him in for my own ends. On the surface, I admired this general for dying for his country, yet in secret I led him on, and even deceived him. I could never throw away a whole heart all at once. And in the end, it seemed I'd lost it. Who wouldn't love a man like that, once they had loved him? But the moment he stepped forward without hesitation and refused to let Liv marry Ethan Fang, I knew it. He no longer belonged to me. Fine. Then the one standing before you now isn't the crazed Lottie chasing you, it's Day's eldest princess. James Lu, I ask you, if I truly had a younger brother who treasured me above all else, would you be willing to? I didn't say it outright. I would, he said. He fell silent for a moment, as if he'd caught sight of some hidden unspoken sign. Then he smiled, delighted. My princess. Good, very good. That was enough. I knew Olivia Tao wouldn't want to go. Will wouldn't let her go either. But the emperor had no reason to refuse. Send out one princess, and you buy 30 years of peace. What a glorious achievement, especially for a ruler like him. Since taking the throne, he'd done nothing worth mentioning. In the second year of his reign, the barbarians invaded. He'd been full of lofty ambition and led the campaign in person. Then an arrow sheared past, slicing through his hair in a single shot. He was so frightened he nearly lost control of himself. After that, he never again spoke of going to the battlefield to take enemy heads. His legal wife, my mother, the Empress, showed astonishing wisdom and strategy. Under her command, Day quickly won an overwhelming victory. The Emperor adored her. They lived in harmony and had me, but the Empress never gave birth to another son. Back to the Emperor, he had few achievements in his life. Yet now Day's mortal enemy was suing for peace, something his ancestors had never managed to do. And he had done it. How could he not feel proud? So sacrificing one daughter was, really, nothing at all. James Lu knelt outside the imperial study for an entire day. The emperor still refused to grant Olivia Tao to him in marriage. That was the kind of man he was, even though Olivia Tao was his favorite daughter. I knew someone was going to lose patience. I left the hall and ran into William Tao face to face. He coughed lightly. "Where are you going, sister?" I smiled. "It's stuffy in there. I'm taking a walk." Will didn't suspect a thing. Today was the final day of the banquet. Inside, it was still lively. All the officials knew the emperor would agree to the envoy's demand tonight. Olivia Tao didn't attend. Everyone understood and avoided mentioning it. After Will disappeared from sight, I hurried away and soon reached a palace hall. "Your Highness, you're drunk. James, help me." "I can't. As long as the two of us, Father will grant us a marriage." "I don't want to marry for peace. Please." Please, James." I curled my lips into a smile. Only one person guarded the door. It was Ugly Slave. I stepped past him and pushed the door open. Moans mixed with a wave of heat rushed at me. To my surprise, Ugly Slave didn't stop me. Olivia Tao looked drugged. She clung to James Lu, her thin robe half slipped down, barely conscious. James Lu's clothes were in disarray, but his expression held a teasing calm. When he saw me, he chuckled. "The princess is here?" "Yes," I said. "When does this fine show end?" "That depends on how sincere the crown princess is. When will you lay the whole plan on the table?" Olivia Tao, hazy and confused, didn't know what we were talking about. She only writhed in misery. "It's so hot. Help, someone. Once you finish your scene, you can leave," I said. James Lu obediently released Olivia Tao. Smiling, he asked, "Which unlucky guard did you pick, princess?" I snorted. "One who's done plenty of evil, and an ugly one." As soon as I spoke, an ugly guard, also drugged, was shoved inside. He was heavy-set, with a face full of fleshy folds. "The princess is so ruthless," James Lu sighed, putting on a performance. "A debt for a debt," I said, returning his false smile. "This is only the beginning." The guard lunged forward. The hall doors slowly closed, concealing that filthy crime. I stared blankly at a vermilion pillar. After a long while, I murmured, "The gosling pecks with a gardenia yellow beak, the young phoenix sways with a powdered waist." "That was the poem the second princess once wrote on a red leaf," he said. "Behind deep walls, curtains lowered, someone naps at noon, red roses on a trellis, green banana leaves." That was the couplet I never finished. "So it was written by the eldest princess. Then it's not strange at all." He clapped. "A rare poem, full of charm. No wonder I never saw Olivia Tao write anything so good again. So she's a plagiarist. When will you gift me a red leaf, princess?" He'd already tossed Olivia Tao aside in his mind. With a few words, he started flirting with me. That kind of coldness was chilling. I only smiled, neither confirming nor denying. I returned to the banquet just as Will, worry written all over his face, said Olivia Tao refused to eat or drink. He feared something would happen and asked the emperor to come check on her. "I'm going too," I said. The emperor glanced at me and nodded. The three of us went, followed by several ministers and their wives, all the way to Olivia Tao's palace. Will stepped forward. "Olivia Tao, father is here to see you." "Don't. You. Who are you?" His face changed completely. I saw the emperor frown and stride forward to shove open the door. Everything inside lay plainly before everyone's eyes. Olivia Tao was clutching an ugly man, rolling with him on the bed. A gasp, someone's stifled cry rang out first. Then the emperor, at the front of the crowd, toppled straight down. Chaos. Total chaos. The beloved second princess, Olivia Tao, was actually so shameless. The crown prince hacked the guard to death on the spot. He killed a batch of palace servants too. But he couldn't kill the ministers. And he couldn't kill the eldest princess. The scandal spread with terrifying speed. While the palace was in turmoil and Will handled the situation, I went to the emperor's palace. The servants didn't dare stop me. After I dismissed the imperial physician, only the two of us remained in the hall. I lifted the medicine and helped him sit up, ready to feed it to him. He looked at me, eyes assessing. "I'm only worried about your health," I said calmly, "but before you drink, we should test it." I took out a silver needle. When I pulled it out a moment later, it was completely black. He slapped the bowl away at once. He glared at the shattered pieces on the floor, breathing hard. Who wants me dead? Who sent this medicine?" Reporting to the emperor, it was the crown prince. "What did you say?" I shoved the physician aside and shouted, "Hurry and take father's pulse." The physician trembled as he stepped forward. Then his face went pale with shock. "This is beyond remedy. His vitality is exhausted. Emperor, I fear you don't have much time left. Why was it never diagnosed before?" I demanded. Reporting to the princess, "This poison lies dormant in daily life. Only when the body is stimulated will it be catalyzed. Only then does it reveal itself. And if you drink the final dose, it will. The emperor's eyes were bloodshot. "It will what?" "It will cause immediate, sudden death." My face changed. I pointed at the puddled remnants on the carpet. Then this is. The chief physician saw the medicine on the floor, crawled over and licked it. "Emperor, it's this medicine." He collapsed. "Fine, what a wonderful son I have. So eager. I'll depose him." Then he remembered he had no second son. His hand loosened on the blank edict, and he slumped back, drained. I suddenly dropped to my knees and knocked my head against the floor 3 times. Blood quickly seeped from my forehead. "Lottie, what are you doing?" The emperor cried in alarm. "Father," I sobbed. "Mother never slept with a guard. I found this not long ago among her dowry. Please look." It was a 10,000 blessings painting, written in blood. With time, the blood had dried into a dull, faded red, like a withered flower. She was still writing it before she died. She said she would finish it and then give it to you. How could she turn around and sleep with a guard? Mother was wronged. The emperor took it with shaking hands, and tears suddenly fell. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I didn't dare. Who did it? I shook my head and pressed my lips tightly shut. It was Grace Jiang, wasn't it? He said. Grace Jiang was my aunt. She was the current empress. My expression shifted. I bowed low to the floor, shoulders trembling. I wasn't crying. I just couldn't keep the hatred off my face. Father, you were always good at putting on a show. You knew Mother could never have done such a thing. And yet you still... He said good 3 times in a row, like a ruler who had just uncovered a hidden palace secret, as if the world had abruptly changed before him. How ridiculous. You were the one who killed Mother, my father. And all these years with only one son, was that her doing too? I saw Olivia Tao push Lady Zhao when she was about to give birth. Lady Zhao went into premature labor. The baby cried only 3 times, then died in your arms. The emperor's expression turned complicated at the mention of Lady Zhao. Lady Zhao was weak. She died a few days after the premature birth. But your child did not die. He was a prince. I had little power. I could only send him far away. Where is he now? The emperor demanded. I said nothing and looked toward the door. Someone appeared there. A guard's blade hung at his waist. A vicious scar crossed his face. Ugly slave. My son who died young. How could he still be alive? The emperor surged with startling strength. He grabbed Ugly Slave's hand, wild-eyed, as if seized by a final burst of life. The emperor pricked his finger and let his blood drip into a bowl, together with Ugly Slave's. It dissolved. Then he abruptly calmed. Back then, you died in my arms. I remember clearly. You had a birthmark on your lower back. Come here, let me see. I froze, but I couldn't say anything. I could only clench my fist in secret and let my long nails dig into my palm. Ugly Slave and I had never noticed whether Lady Zhao's child had such a birthmark. What now? Ugly Slave didn't move. He said calmly, I have no birthmark, Emperor. You must be remembering wrong. The air went still, as if a century passed. The emperor smiled. Yes, I remembered wrong. He had been testing us. I let out a heavy breath. I knew the emperor might not truly believe Ugly Slave was that child. But now that Will wanted him dead, and he knew his time was short, he would rather cling to a lifeline and believe Ugly Slave was the prince. I will name a new crown prince. From now on, you will be called Benjamin Tao. Someone bring paper and brush. Father wants to depose me, the crown prince, and you didn't even tell me? William Tao strode in. The emperor said evenly, Wretched son, you still dare show your face. For a moment, his presence was like he was back in his prime. It made Will flinch. Why wouldn't I dare? Father, you're about to die. He drew out the word, his face full of mockery. He waved a hand. Behind him appeared a unit of black armored guards, the imperial guard that protected the inner palace. I'll ask you, the emperor said. The poison in my body, did you do it? Will answered briskly. Yes. When you were young, you weren't poisoned. What happened to the late empress? You did that too. You only realized today? Will said. Framing Aunt as sleeping with a guard was Olivia Tao's idea. Mother led you there. The tonic soup Grace Jiang sent was only to nourish your body, and I pretended to be poisoned just to shove Aunt one more step. He sighed softly. You. The emperor trembled with rage at his shamelessness. Beast. What did Aunt do wrong? Mother wanted to rule the inner palace. I wanted to rule the world. Her only mistake was standing in our way. He turned to me. Sister, I meant to do it step by step, but who knew Father would be provoked and discover his condition early? I had no choice. Oh, is that an edict in Father's hand? General Fang, go take it and bring it to me. My expression darkened as I watched Ethan Fang walk closer, step by step. He avoided my gaze. I couldn't tell if it was shame or something else. General Fang, what are you waiting for? Once I take the throne, I'll help you divorce sister at once and marry Olivia Tao to you. Ethan Fang moved. He raised his sword, ready to slice the edict in half. Ethan Fang, I asked calmly, are you going to become a traitor? His blade was already near the emperor. In that instant, I saw Will's face spread into a confident smile. In the next instant, Ethan Fang suddenly crouched, picked up his sword, and placed himself in front of the emperor, taking a guard's stance. The sudden turn left Will stunned. He stared at Ethan Fang, eyes full of confusion. The Fang family has served emperors for generations. We never take part in struggles for the throne. How could you turn for a woman? I answered for him. Besides, not long ago Ethan Fang had learned the truth. The benefactor he had yearned for, the person he'd given his heart to as he waited, wasn't Olivia Tao. It was me. Ethan Fang was different from James Lu. James Lu was heartless. Ethan Fang was ruled by feeling, which gave me no end of headaches. That day I let out a long sigh and told him the truth. I'm sorry, Ethan Fang. No, Felix. Felix was the nickname I gave him back then because I love money. What did you call me? Will's eyelid twitched hard 3 times. You asked me before how I knew about you and Olivia Tao. That's the answer. You were poisoned and couldn't see clearly. I had to carry you down the mountain. You were really heavy. I tossed in a small complaint. You? Ethan Fang. Back then, when I set 3 conditions for the divorce, the 3rd was that you help me. Will you? Of course, he said. Eyes reddening. Satisfied, I said, thank you, General. Clap, 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 Will applauded. Sister, impressive. But do you really think having General Fang means you can turn defeat into victory? That ugly man, did you find him? You worked hard? That's your brother, the future son of heaven. Don't be rude, the Emperor snapped. Brother? And where did you dig him up? No proof, no evidence. Who would believe he's the future son of heaven? It doesn't matter if General Fang switched sides. Men, move. When it's done, you'll all be promoted and rewarded. He gave the order to the Imperial Guard. They already know, I said flatly. Know what? Why are you here? Will shouted. He'd seen the backbone ministers of the court staring at the would-be regicide crown prince with complicated expressions. Of course, I brought them. Ugly slave, Benjamin Tao, had been standing in a shadowed corner. He stepped forward without a sound and struck Will unconscious with one palm. It was over. At that moment, the Emperor suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Father, I cried, rushing to him. I don't have much time. I'm writing the decree of succession. A servant immediately came forward with paper and brush. My heart pounded like a drum. At last, the ministers watched in silence, grief-stricken. Now that I have reached 70 and have ruled for 61 years, it is only by the silent protection of heaven, ancestors, and the realm, not by my own virtue. I have been harmed by treacherous men. My days are few. William Tao is exiled 3,000 li. Grace Jiang is left to rot in the wild. Princess Olivia Tao is stripped to commoner. The people who killed Mother back then finally met their retribution. Olivia Tao devised the poison. Grace Jiang led the Emperor there. And the Emperor. He knew Mother's nature. He knew she could never do such a thing. Yet he still played the betrayed husband and kept up the act for 15 years. All of them deserved to die. I hereby appoint. Finally. Benjamin? I glanced at Benjamin Tao. He lifted a hand and lightly traced the scar on his face. He was the son of the guard who supposedly slept with the Empress. He had ruined the face he shared with his father. He had plotted with me for years for one purpose only, revenge. We staged that scene on purpose so Olivia Tao would see. She always loved stealing what was mine. Ethan Fang's life-saving favor was one. Ugly slave was another. That way, I could place him at Olivia Tao's side. Drug Olivia Tao. Send away her guards. My game had finally reached its last move. Will was deposed. The Emperor had only one choice left. Even if this Benjamin Tao was fake, so what? He would simply spend more effort suppressing the rumors. After Benjamin took the throne, he would die suddenly one day and pass the crown to me. I would be Day's unprecedented, unmatched Empress Regnant. This thorny road, no matter how hard, was one I would walk to the end. I hereby appoint Benjamin. In that instant, 1,000 thoughts came. From pretending to admire James Lu to lower Will's guard, to hoarding money like mad, earning the ugly nickname Princess Gold and Silver. Before I turned 8, I was carefree. Back then, I wanted so many people to love me. And I wanted so much money so the people of the world wouldn't suffer. Then I would stand on the city wall and pour out chest after chest of gold and silver. See, everyone would have money and no one would die. After I turned 8, I learned that being loved comes at a price. And some people don't deserve to go on living. I cursed at Mother's coffin for 2 hours straight. Then I turned around and vomited until my stomach was empty. I wanted someone to love me plainly, without disguise. I wanted someone to fall in love with the me who was nothing at all. But every gift of fate comes with a clear price tag. From that moment on, I was no longer a princess. My true heart, I'd lost it. But the emperor stopped speaking. Had something gone wrong? I stared at him with burning eyes, unable to hide my urgency. Say it, say it. Lottie, you're too eager. That won't do, the emperor sighed. A chill ran through me. Father, what are you saying? What could I be eager for? What he said next nailed me to the spot. I hereby appoint the eldest Princess Charlotte Tao as imperial heir. After my death, the ancestral realm is entrusted to her. Let all ministers serve her as they have served me. What? What did he say? I stared at him, stunned, unable to believe it. Charlotte, he said, every word costing him effort. Come closer. Let me look at you. So alike, he murmured. You and your mother. Fearless, fierce, tough. Once you set your mind on something, you do it no matter how hard it is. You dare offend the whole world. I admit it, I was afraid. No man wants a woman above him, least of all when he is the emperor. You tampered with the water for the blood test. Lady Zhao's prince died long ago. I know all of that. You wanted to trick me into giving him the throne, then have him pass it to you. Isn't that right? How naive you were as a child. You wanted to equalize wealth. You wanted everyone to live well. How naive. But benevolence is a ruler's most important quality. Everything had been torn open and dragged into the light. You killed Mother because she was better than you. When they framed her, you went along with it. Hatred surged through me. You made these 10 years burn like fire for me. But I was never meant to become this. I'm your daughter. I'm your daughter. I wanted to find someone who loved me, but now I don't even know how to love anyone. The injustice crushed me. I'm just a woman. I shouted until my voice broke, pouring out all the bitterness I'd buried for years. I wanted to throw every secret plot into the open, let them sizzle under the sun, stinking and rancid, hurting everyone. It shouldn't be like this. It shouldn't. Good, good. He actually laughed. That's what I want. Hatred. Charlotte. His large hand rested on my head and gently stroked, like ordinary warmth between father and daughter. I'm mediocre. If I hadn't been born into the royal house and happened to become emperor, I might not have been worthy of your mother at all. All my life I envied the capable and despised talent. I was ordinary, ugly, without achievements. The Xiongnu toyed with me. One arrow and I lost my nerve. But the most correct thing I ever did may have been raising a wolf king like you. I tried to speak, but my throat was blocked. Charlotte, lift your head. Look at your father. I'll ask you. I stared at him. First, do you still want the people of the realm to live good lives? Yes, my first step is to use the silver I've saved over the years to buy back imperial fields and distribute them to the people to farm. Good. Second, do you still hate me? There was a flicker of hope in his eyes. I blinked. There were no tears. Father, you killed Mother, I said, my voice sharp with hate. He turned his head away in humiliation. You know. Of course you know. You've been clever since you were little. How absurd. He coughed up another mouthful of blood. His life was clearly at its end. In broken breaths he forced out the last question. Charlotte, are you ready? Ready to walk this thorny road. You will meet men like me. Jealous of talent, contemptuous of women. When your mother is framed, they will go along with it and watch coldly, only to salvage their pride. Scholars will point at you and curse you until you lose all face like I did when I was young. You will never again do as you please. The road you walk has no one before you and no one after you. Beasts will circle you. Everyone will watch you like prey. Are you afraid, Charlotte? I'm not afraid. Afraid or not, it's too late, he said with a hoarse chuckle, his throat rumbling like a broken bellows. I wanted to teach you more, but I can't. He murmured, I'm sorry, Charlotte. I'm leaving you, here alone. Smiling, he closed his eyes. The hand on my head lost its strength and fell. Let others' suspicious stares be like ghost lights. Walk your night road boldly. Lottie, don't cry. Those were his last words. I grabbed his limp hand without thinking and called for the imperial physician. Later, it hit me all at once. The poison they'd given him, I'd had a hand in it too. I rose to my feet. After kneeling so long, my knees throbbed. Ben came over to steady me, and together we walked out of the palace hall. Your Majesty, look at your ministers. I swept my gaze over their grief-stricken faces and blinked. A fine rain began to drift down. I lifted a hand to my cheek and felt wetness. Was I crying? No. I didn't feel tears at the corners of my eyes. I turned back with a smile and said to Ethan Fang, "General Fang, this rain's really strange. How did it end up drifting on?" A palace maid that had said timidly, "Your Majesty, you're crying." Impossible. What would I cry about? This rain is cursed. Ben took my shoulders and pulled me into his arms. I caught the faint scent of soapberry. Somehow it only fed my stubbornness, and I insisted, I really, truly, am not crying. "I know," he said gently. "It must be the rain. It stings." "Right. That's it." I kept sniffling as I insisted. "All right," he murmured, again and again, patient to the very end. "Ben, you're leaving?" The scar-faced man answered with a low sound. "Our original plan was that after I took the throne, I'd die suddenly and pass it to you. But the late emperor named you the new emperor outright, so there's no reason for me to stay." "But what about you?" I feel about you. You. Do you even know?" "That's just dependence, Lottie." I spun in place, frantic, with no idea how to make him stay. "I'm only shedding this prince's identity. I'll come back." When the emperor chooses consorts." He patted my black hair. "Maybe by then you'll be able to see your feelings clearly." "All right." Ethan Fang had been clinging to me for ages. I had someone deliver the divorce papers, but he refused to sign. Later, he finally relented. He agreed to the divorce, but only if he could see me once. I agreed. "You've seen me. Sign it, General." "I won't. My 3 conditions. You met all of them. Why won't you sign? I once asked you what you'd do if you regretted it. You brushed it off. So now?" "No." He suddenly seemed to remember something. "No one dares buy or sell imperial farmland, so the princess's first condition, forgive me, but I can't fulfill it." He looked deeply regretful, yet a fire flickered in his eyes. "No, others don't dare, but I can." I took out a bank draft. "This is what I've saved over the years. Rewards, my dowry, my mother's dowry, all of it together comes to exactly 100,000 taels. Every last bit of my savings is here. All these years I've carried the name of a money grubber. General, you'd better take good care of this reputation money." "So when your Majesty said the time wasn't right, that's what you meant." His voice was hoarse, like it had been scraped raw. 58. "Why did your Majesty let Olivia Tao mislead me? Why did you make me think, oh, if I'd admitted it from the start you would have fallen in love with me?" "Yes. Even if that arrow at the frontier, the one shot at you, was something I ordered?" "It was what?" "You heard me." I went on evenly. "All I wanted was to marry you. At first I had my eye on James Lu, but he chased after Olivia, and I had no choice. So I had to have you wounded and marry you under the pretense of warding off bad luck. Olivia didn't want to marry a cripple. James Lu didn't want her to marry, so I stepped forward and married you. In court, it was settled. Even William Tao had no room to react." "Is that the kind of me you want?" "I do." I stared at him in shock. He really couldn't provoke a love-struck fool. Even if the marriage alliance was something I pushed through, I bribed people to tell the Chanyu how beautiful Dai's second princess was. The second princess has nothing to do with me. Oh. What if I tell you all of this? Every last part of it was a game I set up. If I married, I wouldn't have to go as a bride in an alliance. That left only Olivia. She couldn't accept it, so she tried to sleep with James Lu and make it a done deal. She never expected I'd already turned him. Ben and I put on a show and sent him to Olivia's side. She always loved stealing what was mine. This time, she opened the door and invited the thief in. "After hearing all that, do you still dare to love me?" "Why wouldn't I?" He suddenly laughed. "Your Majesty, I spent more than 10 years in the borderlands. The north wind scoured me and gave me a thick skin. I've seen countless broken bodies. I've seen every kind of ugliness. What does any of this matter? My Fang family protects the realm. It's our ancestral command, our dream, passed down through generations. I've been thinking, if you strip away this armor, what do I have left? Was the one I chased after so stubbornly just a shadow? Your Majesty, you saved me. I offer myself to you. Your Majesty plans far ahead. You have schemes and you have means. That woman who saved me." I looked at him in silence. I couldn't name what I was feeling. She's even tougher, even more captivating than I imagined. His phoenix eyes fixed on mine, full of a fire that would not yield. He lightly rested his forehead against mine. Like some small animal, careful as it pressed close, clear-eyed, naive, passionate, frank, loyal. Love me, Your Majesty. I'm begging you. I also ask for Your Majesty's pity. I only want to be a red maple outside Your Majesty's window. I won't ever disturb you. Academician Lu holds high office and great power. Why join the crowd? After finally sending away the clingy Ethan Fang, I said, rubbing at a headache. You're already second only to one, above 10,000. What more do you want? But Your Majesty once said you'd marry no one but me. Don't joke, James Lu. Didn't you once say sincerity is worth nothing? I smiled, my expression complicated. Now I'll ask you the same thing. This sincerity of yours, what is it worth? I let the question hang, faintly amused. Your Majesty, sincerity isn't worth a single coin. He still insisted. Your Majesty wants so much love, but by now, can Your Majesty still tell what's false and what's real? He didn't care what I looked like. He turned and withdrew on his own. Whether or not Your Majesty permits it, between ruler and minister, we will support each other and govern together. 100 years from now, I will follow Your Majesty in death. In later ages, when people speak of James Lu and Charlotte Tao, they will sigh with emotion. We will always be named together. For 1,000 years, 10,000 years. Goose chicks peck with gardenia yellow beaks. Phoenix fledglings sway with powder-soft waists. Your Majesty, the little sincerity left in an ambitious man, it's all here. For no reason at all, a thread of weariness rose in me. I hadn't even taken off the gold and red imperial robe, yet my eyelids were already at war with each other. I stepped back a few paces and hugged my knees tight. At the heart of power, in the lavish study where dragon saliva incense burned, I sank into a heavy sleep.